these kinds of crimes.
A homegrown terror suspect will spend 30 years in prison for his foiled attempt to attack the president and U.S. Capitol. Good evening. Christopher Cornell said he was sorry today, but then cursed the judge when she gave him the maximum sentence on terrorism charges.
As Local 12's Joe Webb reports, the 22-year-old Green Township man will be on strict supervision for the rest of his life. Joe?
Well, Rob, it was an interesting day in federal court today. It started with a 15-minute undercover tape of Christopher Cornell talking about his plot to attack the Capitol on the day of the State of the Union address in 2015. We just got a copy of that videotape, and here's Christopher Cornell talking about why his Capitol plan is a better idea than the attacks of 9/11.
You know, if I was going to go for like 9/11 style, I could easily do that, but I don't want to do that. Like I said, it's nonsense to me, and like it doesn't really affect the government. It doesn't stop anything. It doesn't like. Of course, it might like put the city on halt for a little bit, but what's it really going to affect? It might affect business, but I don't want to affect the government itself. So that's what I'm thinking about.
Now, that was played at the beginning of Christopher Cornell's sentencing today. The sentencing ended with Cornell swearing the system was rigged and saying Allah is in charge, not Judge Sandra Beckwith. In between, he laughed, he cried, and pled for the second chance he didn't get. In court today, Christopher Cornell's attorneys and a psychologist described the 20-year-old arrested outside the Green Township gun store as a self-radicalized loner, the victim of a dysfunctional and abusive family who finally felt like someone when he could brag about jihad. Cornell himself told the judge he was sorry he scared people, that he was a good person who had become a peaceful Muslim upon reflection in prison.
Do I believe he was remorseful? I absolutely do. I've seen a complete transformation in him from when we first met.
The prosecution painted a different picture. They showed the undercover video and reminded the judge that Cornell did a lot more than talk. He took action. They described him as a ticking time bomb.
But for the intervention of law enforcement, Mr. Cornell had just purchased semi-automatic rifles and 600 rounds of ammunition and would have been on his way to Washington, D.C., so it's a very apt description.
They also reminded the judge that Cornell and his father had allegedly conspired to identify and intimidate the confidential informant who turned him in. Off camera, John Cornell denied that. On camera, he continued to stand up for his son, saying the system was rigged.
I told you that I love and support my son, and I will until the day I die.
Judge Beckwith listened to both sides for nearly 4 hours. She said his remorse was late in coming, and she said Cornell was dangerously susceptible to falling prey to jihadist propaganda. She sent a clear message with her sentence.
What I very much hope is the message that goes out is to think twice before going down this path of radicalization. If you go down that path and you get caught, you are looking at 30 years in prison.
Now, in addition to that 30-year prison sentence, Christopher Cornell will be on supervised release for the rest of his life. Judge Beckwith put some serious restrictions on Cornell once he's out, including limits on computer use. He will only be able to use a computer at work and for written emails that are approved in advance by his probation officer. And those emails cannot include attachments. Rob?
Joe Webb, thanks very much. You'll hear more of that just released undercover video of Christopher Cornell's plan coming up live.